Again, it's a real stand-up dealership that can't replicate the problem that you're complaining about, but goes ahead and fixes the potential source of that problem anyway. That's amazing. So thank you to Ember and Woody's for fixing that. Hey everyone, well, here I am in Vancouver. I'm gonna pick up my RV from Woody's RV World today, and that's because I just put it in after that 5,000 mile or 7,000 kilometer road trip that I did. That's a lot of miles to put on a trailer, and especially when it's new. So obviously there were a bunch of reasonable warranty repair items that need to be dealt with. And then hopefully I'm gonna go see the RV and show you how they fixed it, or did they fix it.
1 week later.
That's right, everything was pretty much either finished or we've addressed it to be done in the future. For instance, the black floors, let's cut straight to it. Ember feels, and I agree, that we should wait until the problem spreads a little more. It's just showing up in the bathroom right now, so they took measurements for the bathroom and then the whole floor. So if they are gonna have to replace the whole thing, they've already got the measurements they need, but we're gonna go ahead and take it into the season. Let's face it, I want this trailer for the summer. Woody's is gonna be busy for the summer, so why have it fixed now? Let's let it get more stained, and then we'll get it fixed, and I'll start next season with a brand new floor. I got a bunch of warranty work done after the big 5,000 mile trip that I did. So I figured the proper thing to do here is to go through the items, let you know how they fixed them, or if they didn't fix them, because not everything was fixed. So let's roll through the items, and they did deal with the big water leak, so stay tuned. I'm going to talk about that. So there's some small things that they had to tidy up that they took care of. So the microwave was loose. They refastened down the microwave mount. It just was never mounted properly. The drawers that were all opening up during travel, they said that they were misaligned with the clasps or closures that hold it shut when it's closed all the way. So they realigned those, they said. I didn't look at the work itself, so I'll take it at face value. The cargo door on the side, once again, was a little loose, whereas it wouldn't shut all the way. So I'd go to close the big cargo door and one or the other handles wouldn't fully snap. I've had this problem going back and forth. So they went and replaced some hardware, and now it does seem to shut tight, closed. That's good. The water pump. The whole trip, the water pump wouldn't turn off. So I had to turn the pump off and on manually when I needed to use it, turn it off when I was done. It would just keep running even after the system was pressurized. They went through a long laundry list of things. They went and actually first replaced the Nautilus as a troubleshooting step, because they had one on stock. Then eventually they replaced the pump itself, and they said they had to adjust, I think it was a check valve, but they had to do some additional adjustments to get it balanced so that it worked right. So last I checked, the pump worked. So we did a small camping trip right after we got this work done, just for a couple of days, and the pump seemed to work just fine. So there was a little bit of pulsing on the hot water side, which was a problem in the very, very beginning. I had them fix by replacing the pump 6 months ago. But if that's the only problem I have, is that it pulses a little bit when it runs the hot water, I'll just take it. So the pump is fixed. The shower, much like Hail and Ember, my shower was very soft on the bottom. In fact, I felt like it was going to crack soon under the weight, so I was standing on the edges of the shower when I would take a shower. And so they looked. Apparently, one of the mounts underneath the shower was set upside down. And although Ember didn't approve them removing that and putting it right side up, they approved them adding a bunch of additional supports. So now there's a bunch of additional supports underneath my shower, and that's going to facilitate the bending, right? So they just put more wood underneath there, and that's fine with me. I need a little extra support. I'm a big guy. My stabilizer jacks, for some reason, all had just one nut on one of the bolts. So there'd be 4 bolts bolted up holding on the stabilizer jack, and only one nut on one of them, on one of each of the 4. So each stabilizer jack would have 4 bolts, but only one nut going in. So this led me to believe that it was maybe threaded, and so it was screwed in and threaded tight. Maybe that nut was just a safety nut, but for whatever reason, that's the way I got it. And so I asked them, and they went ahead and put nuts on all the stabilizer jack bolts. I don't know if that's redundant or not. I don't care. They went and did it. I asked, and so there you go. I had them look at my Schwintek Slideout rails. I noticed that there was some gouging, some scratching on them, and I would find some random pieces of like metal shaving, of aluminum shavings, it looks like, on the floor when I sweep. So I was wondering if that was the source. They said they looked at it, and that seemed fine, so there was nothing to adjust there. There's the shocks. You know, when you grab the shocks underneath the trailer and you shake them in their mount, there's a little bit of give inside the mount. I presented that to them. They looked there. And again, they didn't find that that was out of the ordinary or out of concern. I still want to send to Lippert, who makes the Kurt independent suspension, some footage of the shocks and say, is this too much give? I'd just like to hear that it's fine. But, you know, they said that was fine. Then there's the black floors, the black smudges that are starting to spread from the bathroom. It started in the bathroom. As many of you may know, there was a problem with the first 1,000 embers that came off the line, where the adhesive for the vinyl floor wasn't proper, wasn't the right matchup of chemicals. So over time, the adhesive sort of leaves black streaks on the vinyl flooring. So I'm starting to see that now in the bathroom. Ember and Woody's acknowledged it. They took measurements to replace vinyl across the whole floor, in addition to just the bathroom. And Ember had suggested to Woody's that I wait to see if the problem spreads to the other parts of the trailer before they proceed with replacing it. I agree entirely. I expected it to spread, and since I've taken it out of the dealership on our last camping trip, I could see it just starting to spread past the bathroom area. With the vinyl flooring, my expectation is towards the end of this summer, when the season grows cold and I stop RVing, that's when I'll arrange with Woody's over the winter months to have the floors redone. And again, I expect to have a quality job done, because to date, Woody's has done quality work. Ember knows what bad flooring jobs look like. And I'm just confident that this reflooring job, which is just a cosmetic replacement of the vinyl, will take place and look good. I'm hoping they lift some of the furniture. I don't expect that they'll remove all the furniture just to put in the flooring. So some mix would be nice. Some compromise in that department would be okay with me. So that's going to be coming up here towards the end of this year. And the leaks. Well, I took it in and they fashioned for me an additional seal, a seal that was attached to the trailer side that joins with the seal that's been put inside the slide out. I'll show a picture of it here. This is the final seal they put in. They actually put in a temporary seal, one they fashioned themselves as they handed it back to me, because they knew I wanted to go camping again. And that seemed to hold. I didn't get any water intrusion. It didn't rain really hard, but I did drive through some rain. I pretty much can't go camping for a long weekend in British Columbia without seeing some rain somewhere. So yeah, I had a little bit of rain. I didn't see any water intrusion. Then when we were parked, there was a lot of rain when we wrapped up. So the walls were soaking wet when I pulled them in. I tried to wipe everything down. So I couldn't really judge whether there was any moisture on the floor after that. Because, you know, if you bring in the slide out in the middle of a driving rainstorm and your slide out walls are wet or your slide out roof is wet, as much as you can dry it off by hand, there's going to be little drips of water getting in. It's one of the reasons I went for a woodless construction trailer, because I live in British Columbia and there's been so many camping trips where I've had to pull in the slide out in the driving rain. I want my trailer to be able to handle a few drops getting in. I prefer it didn't leak, but I can definitely handle a few drops of water getting in. So then I brought it in a second time here. I actually brought it in and out twice. And that second time, they finally put the permanent seal in, which here's again footage of right here, which is a nice new seal that runs the length of the wheel well. It joins up and matches up rather well with the seal on the inside of the slide out. So technically I haven't tested this seal yet, but I promise you I will be. And you know that if there's a little bit of water coming in, I'm going to be tripping. I'd just like to point out there's a bit of progression, right? The very first time I got my trailer and drove it in the rain, there was a lot of water coming in. And in fact, you can see in some of these videos, some of the early footage of how much water would come in just driving a little bit in the rain. And you cut to what I'm finding on this last road trip. where there'd be maybe a very single trickle of just a little bit of water coming in versus what was basically cups of water getting in and sliding across the floor in the beginning. So they've continually made progress. I'm expecting with this last seal that we've gotten pretty close to done. And like I said, I promise I will put it through the test. There was a few other cosmetic items I had them fix, like the armrest for the couch that sits in the slide out had come a little loose from the wall. Apparently they just refastened it, used some extra adhesives, and it's back in place, and that seems fine. And the other thing that's not resolved that still needs to be addressed is my wheel chocks. The mounts for them bent a little bit. So when you put the wheel chock on, the built-in wheel chock that comes with the Ember models, you put it on and you put a little pressure to get the locking against that tire, and where it's mounted on the plate, on the inside of the tire, where that chock is mounted, is a fairly thin plate. And over the period of this trip, it ended up bending a little bit. Both of them ended up bending a little bit, but one of them bent so much that when I retracted the chock back to its original position, there was no longer room to put the pin in because enough of the mount had curved. I think I got a little bit of a picture video here of how you can see it starting to bend. They went and bent it back enough that I could use it, and so I'm able to get the safety pin through. I'm obviously trying to use the least amount of force that I can. I've retracted the adjustable mount portion of the wheel chock to its shortest setting so that I'm putting the least amount of pressure on the tire. It wasn't very big before that. I didn't have it out very many threads, but now I have it all the way snug with the least amount of threads showing on that mount point. And so I'm trying to use the least amount of pressure as I can. So far it's working, but you can see there's still a little bit of a bend in there. What they've requested from Ember is that they be allowed to put in some sort of reinforcements. I'm hoping that Ember will approve this, because if they don't approve this, I may take this to a metal fabricator and have them put gussets in myself, just because I like using the wheel chocks and I want to be able to firmly lock it in and not be worried about bending the plate. I think the plate was just a little too thin. Sometimes the wheels at different heights, because I'll have it on a wheel leveler. We'll see where this goes. They've put in the request. I haven't heard back. Another small cosmetic item was just a little strip on one of the pieces of wood furniture adjacent to the couch. It's one of those finishing strips that's probably 3/4 cardboard and 1/4 wood. And so they eventually got in the matched color piece, and they swapped that out while I was in there. They also ordered for me the part to replace the broken piece of my stabilizer jack, which was that very first accident we had on the road trip where a tire that was on the road hit the stabilizer jack and bent it a little bit. Well, I've had to replace a piece of metal here. I'll show you here right now a picture of it. And I've had to replace that piece of metal. So I ordered in that part because I felt like that was user serviceable. I can replace that myself. I mean, I'm pretty bad with tools, but it's literally a single bolt. So I've taken that on. But even then, since I've gotten the part, of course the bolt doesn't quite fit through the hole. So I got to go figure out whether to get a smaller bolt or try to drill out the hole. And the hole doesn't have a lot of rim left on it. They already have drilled it out pretty big. So I think I might just go for a slightly smaller bolt to not mess with the integrity of the leg. And I also had Woody's look once again into the grease Zerks for the spindles that are on the back of the suspension. This is to hopefully quiet down the suspension. I had them confirm that the information I got from the previous service technician who left the company at the dealership, I had them confirm her information that grease Zerks were available. Again, I got both messages. I got the answer, yes, they're available, yes, you can install them, and Lippert suggests you don't drill into anything to install them. So it's like they have a bulletin on how to install them, and they're giving you advice not to install them. I'm a little confused by that. I know that one of the Ember users out there in the Facebook groups has installed grease Zerks. I'll show a picture right here. And I'm waiting to hear back from him on how effective it was in quieting down the rig. If it quiets down the rig, I think I might go for it anyway. I'm really tired of how loud this RV is. And on my previous RV, I paid for some extra expensive shackles and things to make it, you know, dead silent. And I would like to make this trailer dead silent, or as close to it as I can. My truck is very quiet otherwise, and I like to be able to roll through a campsite at an idle speed and make no noise if possible. So we'll see where that goes. The wax seal on the toilet was replaced. I complained that early in my trip there was some seepage at the bottom of the toilet. They couldn't replicate that seepage, but they went ahead and replaced the wax seal. So kudos to them for doing that without being able to really fully validate that there was a problem. I was very careful for the remainder of the trip. How do I say this? When using the toilet for number 2, not to lean forward too much. It's a very tall person toilet, and I was afraid that I might be putting too much leverage or weight to one side or the other on the toilet when leaning forward, maybe, I guess you would say. And so I made a point not to lean too much and be careful. And so we didn't have any more seepage for the rest of the trip. But nonetheless, I reported it, and they went ahead and replaced the seal. So again, it's a real stand-up dealership that can't replicate the problem that you're complaining about, but goes ahead and fixes the potential source of that problem anyway. That's amazing. So thank you to Ember and Woody's for fixing that. But gosh, yeah, I think that's everything. I'm sure I missed something.